Welcome everybody to FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. This is the Fighting Irish Daily Blitz, and I'm your host, Rob Thidoff, also known as RPT. You can find me on X at Keith Thidoff. This episode, we're going to focus on the Notre Dame women's basketball team for all their games for the month of January. I'm not going to do a very detailed for each single game, but a high-level overview. I want to go over turnovers and free throw percentage. That's always my two big keys to winning these games. And a little bit more of the nuts and bolts to where this team's going. Had we done this episode yesterday before their last game for the month of January, my attitude would have been a very negative, condescending, especially to Coach Ivey, because I've been very critical these last couple weeks as this season's been very up and down, a lot of injuries. But after last night's big win against UConn at UConn, I'm cautiously optimistic. This team still has to work out tons of issues, especially injury-wise. They are down. Emma Risch is out for the year. Cass Prosper is still out. I don't know if she's coming back. We finally learned yesterday, Olivia Miles, our star point guard last year, probably our best player last year. She tore her ACL in the last regular season game against Louisville. She will not be playing this year. She's out for the year. We finally got in the answer, though, and I think Olivia said it. Because Coach Ivey's been very secretive about this subject, more secretive than the JFK assassination, but we finally know she will be out for the rest of the season. Who else right now? So yeah, Cass Prosper, Olivia Miles out, Emma Risch. So 3 players right now. We're more or less down to 7 players, and that's not good. I know we won a national championship in 2018 with 6 players, but that team was a lot more talented. You could pretty much have, of the 5 starters for the team, could be your star player at any point is what I'm trying to say. But last night, big win at UConn. UConn had been playing their best ball of the season, if not the best teams in the month of January. I know South Carolina's undefeated. Ohio State's really coming on right now. LSU's a pretty good team again this year. But UConn was probably playing the best ball of any team. But we ended their 13-game winning streak at UConn. It was a nationally televised game on Fox. So great recognition for this team, great publicity for this team, great marketing tool for Notre Dame to say, hey, on the big stage, this Notre Dame women's basketball team came to play. And what a game. I can't say it enough. But I forgot how good it feels to beat UConn too. That was a huge rivalry back in the day when we were both in the Big East. Coach McGraw and Coach Auriemma did not like each other, and it's a very sweet victory to beat UConn. So what I'm going to do first, we played 8 games in the month of January. We finished 6-2, and I'm just going to go very quickly through these games, give you how many turnovers, because that's always the key with this team. They play very sloppy. Even last year, even though I figured that was a slightly better team, but this team is slowly coming on. And then I want to go over their free throw percentage also. So they first game was against Pitt. They had 12 turnovers, but we won 71-66. We almost ran out of players because with all the injuries we've had up until that point, Maddie Westfeld had a concussion, and we damn near ran out of players. And that was a very nerve-wracking game because Pitt is not a great team, and to lose at Pitt would have been detrimental. Then we got tongue-tied there. North Carolina, we lost 61-57. That was at home. First time I think North Carolina beat them at Notre Dame. I could be wrong on that, but lost by 4 points. We were 14 out of 21 from the free throw line. You hit your free throws, you win that game. Boston College, we annihilated 98-48. Big win there. Had 19 turnovers, though. Miami of Florida, we won 70-59, 17 turnovers. Virginia on the road, we won 86-76, 15 turnovers. Wake Forest, we won 75-56, 16 turnovers. Syracuse this past Thursday, lost 79-65, just a very bad game, especially in the second half. Only had 12 turnovers, but that's the first time we've lost to Syracuse twice in a season. We lost New Year's Eve to them at Syracuse, and just a very bad game. And I'm thinking Saturday night primetime Fox game, we're going to get annihilated by UConn. I thought we'd get blown out by 30 points. I'm eating crow today. It's the best time to eat crow when your team wins. But they did have 16 turnovers, but we won 82-67 over UConn. Just a great win. That game reminded me of when the Notre Dame men won the ACC tournament championship in 2015 over North Carolina. North Carolina got off to a 10-point lead, kind of what UConn did last night. We come back, take a 10-point lead, and then the second half, UConn comes back, ties the game, similar to what UNC did in 2015. But then we just run away with the game at the end in the last probably 4 to 5 minutes. So very similar. I kind of thought about that this morning. Very similar to the way the men won the ACC tournament championship in 2015 to how we won that game last night. So big win. But here's the thing, and this is like my second talking point after we went through the season recap. Notre Dame has a great big three in Hannah Hidalgo, Maddie Westbeld, and before I talk, let me just go over it. This is where I do want to go over the stats really quick. So last night's game, we only had great win. Don't get me wrong, but only 4 players scored last night. And 2 of the starters did not score. Kylie Watson had 0 points. Anna DeWolf, who's a transfer from Fordham, great 3-point shooter. But when you have no inside game where you can just throw the ball inside, look like you're going to score, and then kick it out for a 3-point shot, we have no threat like that now because our inside game is absolutely pathetic. How great that would be to get Anna DeWolf involved in the game 3-point shooting wise. She has surprised me this year. I've said that in other podcasts where I'm like, well, Hannah DeWolf had about 15 points tonight. She actually created her own shot at times because I thought pretty much she was just a setup 3-point shooter. But last night she was no threat at all. And actually Kylie Watson didn't even take a shot. So when your center's not even taking a shot, your biggest 3-point shooter, I think she took 2 shots. That's still concerning. But still, we had Nat Marshall, who is a center, power forward, whatever you want to call it. She's 6'5", I believe, because Kylie Watson's 6'4". She had a great first half. She had 8 points and then only 2 in the second half, so 10 points. The rest of our scoring is what I call our big three. Maddie Westbeld, who was outstanding last night, especially in the second half. She's 6'3", but more of a perimeter type. She shoots the 3-point shot pretty well, but your intermediate 15-foot shots, she's pretty good in that also. 23 points. Sonia Citron, who didn't have the greatest game, but still made some big shots at the end and had a really good end of the first half. She had 15 points. And then our All-American freshman, to me, she's the second best player in women's college basketball right now, only second to Caitlin Clark. Hannah Hidalgo, 34 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and she's relentless on defense too. But here's the thing. As great as that game was last night, our big three, it's not sustainable for the big three to do that night in and night out, because what other teams will do will just focus on taking them out of the game and take their chances with an inside game that is absolutely non-existent right now. And that's the trouble. Our big three, I would take our big three out of any college, women's college basketball program right now. That includes Iowa, who I think after Caitlin Clark, it's a very here. And let me take a step back. Our big three is outstanding. The problem is we're down to 7 players right now. Our 4 to 7, the drop off is so significant. I was trying to think of a comparison between our big three and then our 4 to 7, the drop off. Think of, gosh, how can I say this? And I don't want to be mean here, but let's take 2 celebrities from back in the day. Patrick Swayze, women loved him in the 80s and 90s. Sex symbol. He was in Dirty Dancing, Roadhouse, which I still haven't seen. I know they're making a remake right now, or they did make a remake, and the trailer came out this week. My pop culture reference for this podcast that I always like to have. But very, like I said, he was, a big time movie actor. He passed away a couple years ago from pancreatic cancer. And let's say Michelle Pfeiffer, beautiful woman, still beautiful in her 60s, but take their looks. And they have siblings that they're probably great people, don't get me wrong, but their siblings do not have the looks. It's a big time drop off. If you look at Patrick Swayze's brother, who's also an actor, compare them just look wise and the whole Hollywood appeal, it's a dramatic drop off. He's a strange looking dude. Let's just put it that way. Michelle Pfeiffer's sister, Dee Dee Pfeiffer, who I believe is an actress too. I think George Clooney dated her back in the day. But anyway, her looks compared to Michelle and Patrick's looks compared to his brother, night and day. Our big threes play compared to our 4 to 7, especially that inside game, is the comparison between Patrick Swayze, his brother, Michelle Pfeiffer, and her sister. It's dramatic. And that's why if you look at, like I said, I will take our big three over South Carolina. The thing is, South Carolina's 4 through, I think they can go about 10, 11. And that's the thing too. We just don't have the depth right now. They're 10 and 11 or 4 through 11 is so much better than ours. Even Ohio State, I think Ohio State has a pretty damn good team. I think if they play a team that has a great inside presence, I think that's where their kryptonite would be. But they're 4 through 10 or 11, because they can go so deep, is so much better than ours. But our big three is better than theirs. Who else? Iowa. Even with Caitlin Clark, I think our big three is much bigger than their big three, because if you take Caitlin Clark out of the game, her supporting cast, complementary players, whatever you want to call it, is so much better. If you take her out of the game, her complementary players are nowhere near as productive as if they were with her in the game, is what I'm trying to say. But that's our big three. I can't say enough. I would take them over any team right now. That includes South Carolina, LSU, Virginia Tech. I think UCLA has a pretty good team this year. Colorado, OSU, Iowa. But the thing is it's sustainable. And as I mentioned earlier, Kylie Watson did not take a shot last night. And I watched her get a rebound last night. I can tell she's thinking too much now because she's really struggled lately. But I will say she was at least in the game last night, but still thinking too much. And it was just like, okay, I got to guard this person, guard that person. And then she gets a rebound. She's wide open underneath the basket. All she has to do, either take one step, put it back up. It's an easy layup. But no, she's so focused into not screwing up right now because she's done that a lot. She has a lot of turnovers for a center. And then she kicks it back out. And then we get a good shot. And I think the shot was actually made last night. But she's not looking at all to score, to be any sort of offensive production at all with this team. And that's concerning. Next year, hopefully that's a different, that's where I'm kind of, what do we have the best assistant coaches right now? Or do we have the best head coach right now in development? Because she's been with the program 2 years now. Nat Marshall's kind of hot and cold sometimes. But our inside presence, it's night and day for any team, in our women's team in college basketball right now. It's the, Michelle Pfeiffer's sister comparison, the Patrick Swayze brother comparison right now. Just drastic difference. One, our depth, the 4 to 7, 4 to 10, whatever you want to call it. And also our inside presence, just totally such a drop off is what I'm trying to say. But the big three, we're right up there with the big three. But now next year, we have a McDonald's All-American coming in. She's either a top 3 player or a top 5 player. Her name's Kate Koval or Kate Koval. I'm going to say Koval. She's 6'5". Will probably be a day one starter, but that's next year. And you'd like to have at least 2 really big girls inside. You just don't want one big time center, because if you watch LSU and South Carolina on Thursday night, and that game beat the NBA game of the week because it was such a highly anticipated game, and it was a great game as well. But the length on those teams is just incredible. It's just unbelievable. Shot blocking, just how tall these girls are, and not just tall, but very athletic and good basketball players as well. Kylie Watson's 6'4". I'm not saying she's not tall. Nat Marshall's 6'5", but they're just not really good basketball players. Nat Marshall was decent last night, at least in the first half, but we got to get that inside presence. Maybe next year, Kate Koval will be that person, but she's not here yet. KK Bransford, another player McDonald's All-American right down the road in Cincinnati, Ohio. She's been a very big disappointment this year, too. I look at her last night. She looks out of sync. She's falling a lot. I don't know what the deal is with that. She was hurt earlier in the year. Looks out of shape right now. We got to figure that out because it's not sustainable, at least not for me, for this team to just go with the big three the entire way. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. They proved me wrong last night. We shall see. What else do I want to go with? Well, let's look at, for my next point, final talking point. I'll have one other talking point before I leave you here. The next couple games. So we're done with January. Right now, the next 5 games, we got Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech, who's 13-7. That should be a win. Then we have Pitt at home. They're 7-13. That should be a win. At Louisville, that would be a big game. That's always been a big game. They're 17-3 right now. We're currently, what are we? After last night's game, we're 15-4, I believe. Yeah, I think we're 15-4, ranked 15. Even with the loss to Syracuse this week, I think we'll probably stay at 15. Then we got to go at Florida State. They're 14-7. That's no gimme. And then a really good team at home, though, will play NC State. However, those 5 games, we could win all 5 of those games. But realistically, with, like I said, those the big three is the best to me. At least one of the best big three in the nation right now, but our 4 through 7 is just such a drop off. I can see us going 2 and 3 to be determined. But that's the next sort of, as we look into the next 5 games for Notre Dame. Last talking point I want to go to, had anyone watched the game last night, I think if Notre Dame would have been in the top 5 or top 10, a lot of people would have heard more about Hannah Hidalgo, our true freshman, McDonald's All-American. If we didn't have her this year, this team has a losing record because no Olivia Miles this year. And that's going to be an interesting dynamic next year. How Coach Ivy correlates that, having 2 great point guards. I mean, Hannah Hidalgo is more of a scoring point guard, whereas I've said this before, where Olivia Miles is more of a distributor, gets everybody involved, but can make the big shot when you need it. But that'll be a great problem to have next year when you have both of them back. But had we been more in the limelight lately, but last night, like I said, the game wasn't on cable. It's on network TV, so everybody could see it. And women's college basketball is really becoming more popular right now. I think right now, to be determined, but I think the women's tournament will probably be more exciting than the men's tournament, because right now the men's tournament, they really don't have a favorite at all, and maybe no more than 4 teams could win it. Women have the best of both worlds right now, because you have an undefeated team that's been the dominant force in women's college basketball the last 3 to 4 years in South Carolina. Undefeated. They didn't win it last year, but still really good team. And then you have about 7 to 8 teams that could probably win it also. So there's really good depth this year in women's college basketball. It's not like the old days where it's been UConn, then Notre Dame a couple years here and there, then Baylor. But it's going to be a very fun tournament. The only thing is with the men's tournament, you always have those first 2 games, and that's the most popular time, I think, with their tournament, Thursday and Friday. A lot of people take the day off or take long lunch breaks to watch the games. The women's game doesn't have that because they start Friday and Saturday, I believe. And there's less, let's just be honest, there's less marketing right now for the women's game, but that's slowly improving with, the Caitlin Clarks and everything. But the men, pretty much those first 2 games, the Thursday and Friday games, I think that's the most popular time for the tournament. Then it's also a popular time for men to have vasectomies. From what I was checking data for when I was researching, March Madness, what goes on. I mean, I've been following it for years, but that's the most popular time for that to happen, where men have that procedure and then they just relax that whole weekend and take those to recover, a bag of peas to recover, cold peas, that is. I don't want to get too graphic here, but I just thought that was interesting, that that's the most popular time for men to have have a vasectomy is during the March Madness tournament that Thursday or Friday. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here, but back to Hannah Hidalgo. I think I'm kind of glad people finally saw her last night because she's averaging about 25 points a game. To me, she's the second best player in women's college basketball right now to Caitlin Clark. And I think in 2 to 3 years, she may be bigger than what we think of Caitlin Clark right now. Caitlin Clark's doing the State Farm commercials. Now with NIL, she can market herself now and make money off that. And no disrespect to Iowa, but Iowa is not Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a brand in itself. And if they are smart, they can market Hannah Hidalgo very well. Let's just put it that way. And that could be a, how can I say this? I don't want to say a phenomenon type thing, but in the next couple years, if Hannah continues to progress and she's scoring 25, 30 points a game, and she's marketing herself with endorsements and stuff like that, I think you're going to see whenever Notre Dame travels, ticket sales just increase throughout the yin yang. Like with last week here in Columbus, it was sold out at the Schottenstein Center or Value City Arena, whatever they call it now. I think St. John Arena, though, was still a better place to watch basketball. But here's the thing. Wherever Caitlin Clark and that team goes, it's a sellout. And I think in the next, 2 to 3 years, that can be the same with Hannah Hidalgo and Notre Dame, where it's an event to see not just her, but the Notre Dame women's basketball team. And that can lead to more recruits, more recruits, more money for Notre Dame. I just think, again, no disrespect for Iowa, but it's not Notre Dame. Notre Dame can really use that brand, not just within themselves, but with Hannah Hidalgo. And really, the sky's the limit with her in this program if they consistently take the next steps through that process. But the thing is, too, I keep saying, you got to have the product as well with the women's team. And you just can't do it with this big three is what I'm trying to say. We got to get that supporting cast for her. And hopefully they do, because it's just not there right now. We only had 4 players score last night. And I know the team's feeling really good. Coach Ivy, during the locker room last night, they did a video. She's like, this is what I've been telling you girls all along. This is what you're capable of. And the sky's the limit now. Pump the brakes a little bit right there. Yeah, if the big three plays like that every single game, but I just don't think that's sustainable. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm eating crow, but we shall see. The next podcast I'm going to have, we're going to do the same thing, but with the men's team. I know if you've been paying attention to the men's team, it's been a lot of heartbreaking losses lately. And I told you before, it's going to be a losing season, but I didn't think this team would be as competitive as they are. They had a heartbreaking loss again yesterday against Boston College. But I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule with this team. I know it doesn't seem that way right now, but this if Coach Shrewsbury keeps things going and gets a little bit better players, because pretty much they're just playing with freshmen right now. And these aren't freshmen that Kentucky gets or Kansas gets. These aren't one-and-done kids. These are kids that you have to develop over 2 to 3, 4 years, and they'll become great basketball, or not great, but solid basketball players. But it's just a learning curve. But I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule. But just be patient with that Notre Dame men's team. And I'll go through a detailed analysis for them as well. But the thing is, they're not done for their month of January games yet. They still have one more game left. But what else did I want to say here? I think that's about it right now. Pretty much went over everything we want to go to. I can't say enough. Great win last night against UConn. Hannah Hidalgo. She's the real deal. Second best player to Caitlin Clark right now. And if Notre Dame plays their cards right, they can really promote her in a way to not only make this program better, but also just promote Notre Dame better. And it'll make the Caitlin Clark phenomenon just seem like a figment compared to what the potential is for Hannah Hidalgo and Notre Dame and the Notre Dame women's program overall. So thank you so much for joining me for episode 127. And as always, go Irish.